Thank you so much for joining us here on timforce.com. I'm excited to share with you business consultant, supply chain ERP consultant, David Ogilvie. David, thank you for being here with
Great
us.
to be with you, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And I appreciate your friendship and all the impact you've had in my world and in my life as far as my consulting, the work that we do. What is supply chain? What is a supply chain consultant? Can you share with folks? I know what you do because we talk about it quite a bit, but would you share with folks, because it's so valuable? This will put money in the pocket of food entrepreneurs. Also, it will help them to grow in so many different ways and allow them to have money, to take money out of their inventory and do so many other things in the business.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And that's part of the fun, right? I'm doing what I do. I deal with so many different businesses and get those really good results for them. So that's part of the fun. But I explain myself as a business consultant in many ways. I help executives build profitable companies. That's it in a very short nutshell. That's my elevator pitch, if you like. However, I do that through two elements of my business. There's two pillars to what I do. One is supply chain management, which I know you know quite well, and you've spoken with a very good joint friend of ours, Art, in a previous podcast. Outstanding gentleman and really knows his stuff. And Art and I are very well aligned on the supply chain activities, but that's part of my business as well. And then the other side of that is the ERP systems. And that is the software and technology that you deploy within a business to help you make the business more efficient, effective, and profitable. And
so many.
Sorry,
yeah, David, I just want to share, so many of our clients compete with legacy brands that have been around for 100 years or longer.
Yes.
And they have massive investments in ERP systems. It's a big part of the food industry and also our customers.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, the supply chain and the ERP aspects, they're really like a hand in a glove, because, you know, in all of the supply chain work I do, we always play with the ERP system. Now, my background actually is in business and technology, and I've deployed technology in all of the businesses I've owned personally. And so it was just a natural fit that I would do that when I consult. But there is a natural fit between the two, because when you're making changes to the business and the business supply chain, a lot of that is being driven by the settings you set up in the software that drives the business. So, you know, the procurement and your lead times and all the configuration settings that go into an ERP system will have an impact on how your supply chain operates.
How do we think about that? If you're in the food business and you don't have an ERP system, at what point do you gain one? And also, an ERP system is not necessarily technology. I'm assuming it can be on paper, on a napkin, on in notebooks, and then really though you want to get much more sophisticated than that. And there's probably online SaaS software companies that are offering systems as well. Can you help us understand? So we're a growing food company. We want to do a better job with logistics, ingredient sourcing, and also supplying our customers. How do we start to begin to think about to be more effective in this area in light of your experience and expertise?
So, Tim, I'm making an assumption here, but I'm assuming your clients sort of vary in range, in size, and capabilities quite significantly.
Right.
Well, let's start at the very beginning. For example, I've got an idea and I want to come to you and you help me formulate that idea and get it out into the marketplace. I'm not necessarily going to be a manufacturer as such. Right? I've got an idea, I've got some ingredients and all those sorts of things. And one of the things you'll potentially help them do is go and find a contract manufacturer, somebody to actually make that product for them. Now, in their circumstances, they probably need something very simple. They probably just need an accounting system, some sort of system to help them track the sales and the orders and all of that sort of thing, because they're not logistically doing all of the work. The manufacturer is probably doing that work. So in that sense, they probably don't need very much. So any of the basic accounting systems will satisfy that requirement. But as they take on either the distribution of the product after the contract manufacturer has completed that, if they're doing the distribution, well, then that's when the need starts to grow. And then certainly if they have their own factory floor, then they will definitely need some sort of ERP system. Now, you mentioned that the bigger firms, and I'm assuming you mean the Nestle's and all those sorts of companies, they're all using SAP and all that sort of business. And you're quite right, they've had that ingrained for many, many years. The reality is you don't need an SAP, which can cost hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, to actually make work. So as a small operator, you don't need anything that sophisticated. There are SaaS products, as you mentioned before, that's software as a service, systems out there that you can rent if you like, or subscribe to and just use that product. So it depends how sophisticated you want to get. You can get from very simple inventory control systems that'll handle your sales orders, it'll handle your pick slips, it'll handle your dispatch notes and all of those and invoice for you, and those very simple things. Or you can scale through to something where you've got a real-time data capturing happening in your factory floor, so that when a product goes through a certain process, your inventory is then consumed, and so you're getting real-time WIP information, costing information, and all of that sort of thing. And that's the type of capability that an ERP system will bring to the table for them.
So if I'm a baker, or I'm a fisherman, or I'm in the seafood business, or I'm just thinking, or a beverage maker, and we love particular beverages, you're talking about an area we're not passionate about so often, the food business. And so it's like, a salesman will approach us about a system. How do we even think about what would be one system is more, the efficacy of one system in our organization is better than, say, another system? How do we begin to think about what is value and what is good value for the money, and how do we begin to think about we're investing for the benefit of our business, and all systems are going to improve us? Or I just don't even, where do we even begin, to think about that?
That's a great question, Tim, because the ERP landscape is filled with landmines, and people who are navigating this space on their own without experienced assistance. It's fraught with danger, to be honest. And I'm not just saying that because that's the business I'm in and the services I provide. There is a litany of stories around of people who have wasted hundreds of thousands, and in many cases millions and many millions of dollars on the wrong systems. So the first thing is to make sure, if you want to talk to a software vendor, first thing is understand what you want. Actually, to be honest with you, buy the book. I wrote a book.
We'll put on that. And what's the title of your book? And we'll put a link down. And I know you've written the book. What's the title of your book?
So it's the 14 Deadly Sins of ERP Implementation.
Great. Yeah, I know that it's a great title.
So the first sin is picking the wrong product, which is getting back to your question, right? Oh. Because there's a lot of people are trying to put a square peg, i.e. the system that they buy, into a round hole, which is their business. Right now, the first question they need to understand, particularly in the food industry, yours is a really easy industry to define. It's process manufacturing, not discrete manufacturing. So if I've got a product and I can build motor vehicles with it, that's most likely the wrong product for your industry. You are looking for products that can handle co-products, for example. So you've got a series of ingredients that go in and you can have multiple products come out. Dairy industry is a classic, right? You only got one ingredient going in is milk, and coming out the other end is different sorts of milk, lactose-free, cheese, yogurt, all that sort of stuff, right? So you've got one in, multiple out. The other key piece around the food industry, of course, is what we call a differing in yield. So whereas if I make a vehicle, I always consume 100 parts, and it goes and that makes the vehicle. Whereas in the food industry, you can put exactly the same ingredients in, and whether it's because of the water content or the humidity of the air or a whole series of environmental impacts, that can change the yield you actually get out the other end. Yep. Right? And there are multiple units of measure needed to track that all the way through. And so you need, if you're looking to start, you need a process-driven ERP system rather than a discrete. That's the first thing.